I don't normally do modern ammo reviews, and this isn't going to be a full-scale review, but this stuff has me interested. This, of course, is the AAC 7.62x39 steel case ammo from Palmetto State Armory. Now, when this stuff first hit the market, there were a lot of reports of quality problems as far as the ammo was so out of spec that otherwise reliable rifles were not even running it right, stuff like that. So I held off on buying any until I was reasonably sure that those issues had been addressed. And recently there was a video from a very large channel. I don't necessarily want to name them by name, but big channel, lots of sponsorships. I believe they have done videos for or with Palmetto State Armory in the past, but he seemed to suggest that we're at that point already, that not only is this ammo good, but it's actually better in every way than the ammo it intends to replace. We're talking in terms of, its mean velocity, its consistency, its accuracy. And I don't mean to be skeptical right off the bat, just because it's a large sponsored channel or any of that sort of stuff, because a lot of times stuff hits the market, it's got teething issues, and then eventually those issues get resolved, and then you end up with a decent product on your hands. I think that that's not only plausible, but I think it's actually quite likely. It seems to happen more or less all the time. However, there were a few things in that review that left me a little bit, just kind of nagged at me, I guess. It seemed rather strange. And that was specifically when he was talking about consistency and velocity. His sample size for both the AAC and the Russian stuff that he was testing was 3 rounds each, which seems like an absurdly small sample size, to the point of, I think, frankly, almost worthless. Again, he's much more successful at this than I am, so far be it from me to tell anybody how it's supposed to be done. But generally speaking, with ammo reviews, I've seen people do more like 10-round sample sizes. I could see you getting a little stingy if you've got some kind of rare ammo where you've got 15 rounds on hand, sure. But this is stuff that's available in bulk. That seemed highly odd. And again, this is a very large sponsored channel. He's often getting guns for free. He's often getting ammo for free. I'm not saying that this stuff was necessarily free for him, but he often does get to shoot more or less for free. It seems rather odd to only be able to spare 3 rounds each for a chronograph. I mean, I could be mistaken there. Please correct me if I'm wrong. That seems rather odd. Secondly, the Russian ammo that he shoots is Red Army Standard. And as you know, Red Army Standard is not strictly an ammo manufacturer. They are an importer. They bring in ammo from a variety of different manufacturers and sell it under their own branding. It could be Tulammo, which is generally thought of as very bottom shelf. It could be something nicer. He mentions that the box says that it's made in Russia, but doesn't say what factory. Now, this part is, I think, entirely true. I do have some Red Army Standard ammo on hand. Now, it's by 54, but I'm pretty sure the same principles apply. You can look around here, and for instance, it will say that it is from Russia, but I can't find any marking on here that will tell us what factory this would have come from. However, it is spelled out right there on the head stamps. Let me see if I can get it to focus for you. You can see quite clearly, this is Tulammo. So it's kind of odd. Can you just not be bothered to look at the head stamps? I mean, you have to take the ammo out of the box to load into the magazine. It seems like maybe that could be being deliberately evasive. I can't say for sure, obviously. It's a little bit strange. Now, I'm not one to criticize from the side. If I don't like the way that somebody does something, even if they're maybe potentially right, I'll just do it myself. And so I intend to do my own chronograph test of AAC against 2 different manufacturers of Russian steel-cased ammunition. Now, the AAC is 122 grain full metal jacket. We have this stuff here, which is a 122 grain hollow point. Now, this is manufactured by UCW, which I believe is Ulyanovsk Cartridge Works. And there is kind of potentially one hand tied behind its back on this stuff. So based on the head stamps, I believe this would have been manufactured in 1996, which makes it nearly 30 years old at the time of this recording. I don't know how well it's been stored. I have not had it this whole time. It came out of an estate that was liquidated, so I picked this up a couple weeks ago. Hopefully it's been stored reasonably well. As you can see here, the staples are getting a little rusty, but hopefully the ammo itself performs fine. We'll see how that goes. And then we have some Wolf 123 grain full metal jacket. Now, Wolf is like Red Army Standard as well, in that this is an importer that brings in stuff from a variety of manufacturers as well. However, on their box, you can see, for instance, we have BPZ, which is Barnaul, which actually, from what I understand, is pronounced more like Barnaul, but that's a whole other topic. But by reputation, this is actually supposed to be one of the kind of higher end, one of the nicer manufacturers of Russian steel-cased ammunition. So we'll see if that's true too, if it lives up to its reputation. But I figure I will go ahead and run it through my PTR-32. Why PTR-32? Well, out of my collection, the PTR-32 has the reputation of being kind of the most, precise, if you will, of my 7.62x39 rifles. not that exists, but that I actually own myself. I don't know that it has any bearing at all on velocity or consistency, but I figured let's just put my best foot forward and see what we get. So I'm going to go to the range and gather the data, and then I'll put together a chart that kind of details the numbers. This is PSA AAC. Let's go. 2297. 2273. 2287. 2244. 2263. 2232. 2223. 2240. 2202. 1990s UCW hollow points. 2375. 2397. 2375. 2322. 2370. 2326. 2351. 2343. 2343. Jam. Right, Barnaul. 2285. 2305. 2307. 2318. 2293. 2311. 2305. 2289. 2295. 2281. First, a quick note on the reliability. The AAC ran perfectly fine. I didn't have any sort of malfunctions whatsoever. The only jam I had was actually with the UCW. I don't think that was an ammo issue. I was running a Pro Mag at the time. These magazines are known to be trash. The only reason I was running it was I wanted to have distinctly different magazines for each one, just as a kind of a safeguard against mixing up my samples. So anyways, let's get into the numbers. Okay, so as we look at our numbers, we can see that actually we have the opposite result that we were led to expect. Our AAC, if we look at mean velocity, is the slowest of the bunch. And if we look at extreme spread and standard deviation, it is also the least consistent of the bunch. Our UCW had the highest velocity, but took the second spot for consistency, and Barnaul earned its reputation for being consistent, or at least relative to these. And also took the second spot for velocity. Now, does this mean that that other review channel was necessarily lying? Obviously not. There are a bunch of variables here. For starters, we don't know exactly what ammo he was shooting. It could have been Tulammo, which is very bottom shelf stuff, almost as bad as Remington green and white box. Could be something like this. Also, it could be that maybe this particular rifle has a particular liking towards these other ammos. Hard to say for certain. Now, unfortunately, I couldn't leave well enough alone. The wondering was getting to me, so I figured I gotta track down some Tulammo. so I did, just to see how it would compare. Now I will have to reshoot this stuff again because it's gonna, it's a different day, as such, different atmospheric conditions, temperature, humidity, etc. For it to be apples to apples, I will have to shoot these side by side again. I don't know that it would make a drastic difference, but I figured just to be as scientific as I possibly can, we're going to show the same exact test, but with Tulammo and see what we get there. All right, AAC, let's go. 2275. 2320. 2275. 2269. 1307. 2213. 2242. 2277. 2263. Tulammo, let's go. 2349. 2338. 2399. 2390. 2336. 2372. 2357. 2388. 2353. And this time around, no jams whatsoever, not with either ammunition, so at least it does continue to be reliable. But anyways, let's look at the numbers for Tulammo compared to AAC. Okay, so as you can see here, this ammo doesn't quite even reach the level of Tulammo in terms of consistency, at least not yet. Now, does that mean that that other review was necessarily lying? Again, I can't say for sure. Like I said, I saw some things that to me indicated that there's some kind of evasiveness going on, but it could certainly be that, this rifle just has a certain liking towards certain types of ammunition, and maybe his is the other. I don't want to get into that sort of stuff really. However, there is some work to be done in terms of consistency with this ammunition still, because this is a very recent batch. Now, they have already made some significant strides. This ammo ran reliably, and not only in this rifle, but I have shot it in my other rifles, a couple different SKSs. One was a full length, one was a paratrooper, VZ58, this PTR32, of course, AK, and it ran fine in all of it for the most part. There was one hiccup with the full-length SKS. I had one failure to feed where it just kind of half fed in the chamber and then it kind of stopped right there. I don't know whether that was a fluke. That SKS hadn't really ever jammed before, and it wasn't like a Bubba one. It's a factory mag. It's even numbers matching. It could be strictly a fluke. It could also be that this ammo does seem a little bit lightly loaded. Maybe it just wasn't cycling that particular action with enough gusto. But that was the only one out of, I've fired a few hundred rounds of this stuff by now, and it all seems to work fine. So I wouldn't avoid it entirely. I will say that they need to make a little bit of progress still, kind of as far as maybe load it just a little bit spicier and a little bit more consistent. And again, I think they're doing great work trying to get this stuff onto the market to be a substitute for stuff that's exiting the market or has probably already exited, in fact. So uh, yeah, it's not absolutely terrible ammo. I think that there is still some way to go. That's really all I can say. Obviously, I didn't address any of the accuracy stuff. I may end up doing a part 2 on that, but we'll see how that goes. Thank you for watching, of course, as always.